I'm Chet Englis.
Hi, I'm Jaime Englis. Uh, just to be real with you guys, I want to start by saying that I had the idea that I would live a fairy tale life, that I would fall in love and with this man here and live happily ever after. I have a strong faith. I accepted Christ when I was 4. As my mom tucked me into bed each night, I remember praying with her, as she always did pray with us, and I accepted Christ at an early age. And I went to a Christian school here, in fact, and I was born into this church at Open Door, so I've been a lifelong member for most of my life. And I grew up learning scripture and loving the Lord. And about 6.5 years into our marriage, a beast of sexual addiction arose and became revealed, and my husband's unfaithfulness to me was also exposed. And at that time, when you mix that with some of my own thoughts that I think can be described well by the Lauren Daigle song that says, I keep fighting voices inside my head that say I'm not enough, that could be true of me. So when you take that combination of not feeling good enough or thinking that I had to prove and live my life well and perfect enough, when you take that and combine it with this revelation in my marriage, it was a perfect storm for my own personal disaster. So as that revelation came, I pretty much felt like I'd been stripped of everything that I thought was real, and I filed for divorce, and I'd given up on my marriage and just pretty much figured that I'd pick up the pieces and start over. And then there was my faith that I'd had since a child, and I noticed that even in our separation, that my husband, that Chet, was trying to change. And so suddenly things for me were very complicated. I had my faith, knowing that I wanted to trust God, and yet I also knew I wanted my marriage to end. And even as messy and complicated as it was, I knew that I could pray and ask for God's guidance. And there was a lot of waiting and a lot of sleepless nights and being awoken in the night, and just those heartfelt prayers, and then trusting and waiting for God to reveal what He had for me in my future. And whatever mess you may find yourself in currently, I just want to convey that message that a simple, humble prayer is really what God desires, and then just trusting that He takes that mess, and as He did for me, He continued working in each of us, and we reconciled our marriage just days before our divorce was to be final. What I knew, though, is if we were the same two people entering back into the marriage, that we would fail again and again and again. And by God's grace, we were both willing to make changes. And at that time, I just continued rewriting my love story with Jesus, and asking Him to show me His love, which He did over and over again through that time of separation. And then even when we reconciled, the rest of that song by Lauren Daigle actually says, what you say I am. You say I am loved. You say I am strong. And you say I am held. And in all those moments. And so clinging to that, and clinging to what I knew truth was, that God was all I needed. The truth was that no man could fulfill me fully. I couldn't be whole trying to get my worth from Chet, my acceptance from Chet, to be satisfied by him. And there's no such thing as a fairy tale. So God's changes in my life have been, first of all, just letting go, letting go of things, that perfectionism, and then also the control. Like, I don't have control over Chet's sexual addiction, and I have to leave that to God and let go of that and trust that God will show me too, by believing Chet's behaviors, that he is doing what he needs to do for him, and he can share that side of his story. But for me to recover was letting go, and then keeping God first, above my husband, above my family, but God first. And the fact that I can't earn God's love, and I appreciated what Jeremy May said even last week. He said, God doesn't need us, he loves us. And that hit home for me, knowing that I didn't need to do anything for God to love me, that it's just a fact that he does. It's nothing I do. And then just letting go of fears on a daily basis, praying that I walk in a way God would have me, and take me to uncharted waters, and have faith to carry out God's will for my life. And I'm just extremely grateful for what God has done in each of us. And I'm also certainly well aware we are not perfect. We can still argue with the best of them, but I know just now it is different because we have God in the equation of our marriage, and we have more of him and less of ourselves.
Well, my side of the story is too that I was raised and born in the church, not this church, but I was at church 3 or 4 times a week. I was there, it seemed like, whenever the doors were open, whether it was for a children's choir or the Easter program. We did all of that. I went to youth group. I went to youth rallies on Friday nights. We went to summer youth camp. We were always at church, it felt like. And I was saved at the age of 10. And by all means, I led a Christian life and was a good kid. I didn't go to the parties in high school to drink and to smoke, but I went there to be social, and I had friends. And for the most part, I think my parents would say I was a good kid. I did give them a little bit of grief. When I got married, though, 7 years into our marriage, as Jaime described, I did hit rock bottom. And for me, in my own personal walk with God, I knew that he would no longer allow me to mock his name, and I was doing that in secret. And he wouldn't leave me where I was at that rock bottom. And this was a point in my life where I no longer recognized myself. I had become a master manipulator, a liar, just someone I didn't want to be. And all along I thought I was in control. Yet I lived my life to do things I didn't ever expect to do in life. I had become a sex addict, and my wife had found out about my secrets. I didn't want others to find out about my secrets or what I had become, and I wanted to take my own life. It was self-deception. It was very deceiving, and I was so ashamed. I just didn't want to be here anymore. Basically, my motto became, life sucks and then you die. And I felt if I could keep that side of my life secret, then I felt free enough to keep going. I didn't feel loved, so I felt like I had to keep medicating that side of my life, and felt normal. But that was the furthest thing from reality. Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and take our joy, and that's exactly what he was doing. And my personal message to you today is that beneath that layer of sickness, I had to realize that I felt abandoned and rejected and isolated. And God restores completely. Satan wanted me to feel that abandonment and that rejection and isolation. And in God's restoration, I feel his presence, and I know and feel his acceptance, and I know and I feel his companionship. I get to laugh with the Lord and talk to him. But our message together, we want you to know that we're humbled by God saving our marriage, and that he did it to glorify his name. It's not for us to brag about, but we want to share that message to give everyone out there hope that we had to go through a personal journey, and then we were brought back together to save our marriage. Like Pastor Andy says, he gave us a brain to use, and we're to use it. So we had a long road of recovery back to the point where our marriage was saved. We went to hours and hours and years of intense counseling. We started with Pastor Russ and Becky and Bill. We went to a nationally recognized leading counselor for sexual addiction named Doug Weiss. God gave us incredible people, supportive family, tools, a lot of people with wisdom. We got involved in recovery groups. We led recovery groups. And we started that road to recovery. And I like to describe the road to recovery as a blacktop or an asphalt road that's just full of cracks. And those cracks are God's journey, that we were both on our own cracks, and he had to take us off in one direction and bring us back together from another. And along those cracks are all sorts of fissures where he builds our faith, and he has to show us something along that path to heal us. And to the doubters who question my sobriety or Jaime's true forgiveness, like, does she really forgive me, or does she hold that over to me as some kind of weapon against me? This is just two people who are broken, trying to save a marriage with God's help. And my wife is a champion. She isn't some mild-mannered, meager woman. She is spirit-filled and has passion of her own. And she is summa cum laude of her undergraduate. She has a master's degree, and she's attaining her own private license for her counseling. So she's very intelligent. She's very smart. She's got a will of her own. She does what she wants, believe me. I don't control her. That to say, she did have her own personal journey of healing, and I had my own. And neither one of us really thought our marriage was going to be saved. And God did that. So ever since our separation and then our reconciliation, we've been working with people who have had the same type of addiction or problems in their marriage, and that was in 2005. We just want to send that message to you. There is hope. There is no worst case scenario. We all have a brokenness in our own individual lives, and God can restore you. That's our message of hope. Feel God's presence. Feel his acceptance. Be restored completely. Don't hide in the shadows. Don't let that history define the past of your marriage, but look forward. We want to provide an outlet for you to contact. We're here. We'll maintain your privacy. We'll help coach you in the right direction. We'll provide those tools, and we can be an outlet for you, a resource for you. We won't disclose your situation to anyone else. You don't have to come up to talk to us in church. We do have friends that are not sex addicts at the church, so you won't be associated by guilt. But we Christians, we need to be able to fight this difficult fight as a collective body. God's wisdom, we have all sinned and we all need a Savior, and this sin shouldn't be uncommon to man either. We should be able to talk about it. We should be able to seek healing, and we believe that God is using us to do that. So live in the light, expose the sin. Together we can do this. Where we go one, we go all. And God bless you. We hope to see you soon. Your faces at church.
Can't wait for that.